Hi everyone, I'm Liam Eagle. I'm the editor here at the Web Host Industry Review, and I would like to welcome you all to another one of our WHIR webinars. Today's session is called DDoS Protection, a new and simple technology to protect your infrastructure and customers. And it is going to feature a presentation from Mark Gaffin, who is co-founder of Incapsula. I'm going to give presenter control to Mark right now so that he can get things set up while I do a few housekeeping things related to the session. So first off, questions. We're going to save a few minutes at the end of the session for your questions. However, you can feel free to submit them throughout the session using the question functions in the webinar software. I'll keep an eye on the questions throughout the presentation, but as far as actually putting them to Mark, I'm going to save that until the end. If you do ask a question and it doesn't get answered because we run out of time or maybe it's a bit too specific, rest assured that we will have a record of all the questions asked and who asked them, and somebody will reach out to you via email after the webinar. Or if you have a question you would rather ask outside a public forum like this webinar, you can use the contact info that will be on screen during the Q&A to reach out directly to Mark or someone at Encapsula. As always, there will be a video archive of the webinar available. If you want to revisit a slide or a part of the presentation or share it with somebody else, it'll be in the archives at thewhir.com/webinars as of early next week. And it'll be there alongside a lot of our other great past webinars, including, many good ones. I'd also like to say that if you would like a copy of the slides, I think Mark said that you could contact him directly and get those from him, although there also will be the video archive next week. So without further ado, let's get things started, and I'll turn things over to Mark now. Mark?
Thanks, Liam. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for taking the time to join our webinar today. Before we get started about DDoS protection, I want to spend a couple of words just to talk about some facts on Incapsula. Incapsula is an Imperva spin-out. We were founded in 2009. Today we have over 30 employees, and we are protecting and accelerating thousands of websites today. These include small office, home office, and small SMBs using standard Drupal, Joomla, WordPress, and other common stacks, ranging to large enterprises like Sony, Toshiba, financial institutions like you can see on the slides, and Incapsula works through service providers and with service providers, as you can see as well. So some basics about DDoS, just before we get into how to mitigate them and to put everyone on the same page. Will be broken into three different types. The first is what we call a volume-based attack, where the method includes UDP floods, ICMP floods, and other spoofed packet attacks. The objective there is essentially to saturate the bandwidth of the attacked site, and we typically measure these in bits per second. The second attack type are what we call protocol attacks. These include SYN floods, but will also include different other types of fragmented packet attacks, with the objective at mind being to consume the web server resource or any other intermediate communication equipment, such as a firewall or a load balancer or anything else that's sitting in front of the web server. These are typically measured in packets per second. And the third type is what we call application layer attacks. These are layer 7 attacks, and unlike protocol attacks, they are comprised of legitimate and what seem innocent requests with the objective to bring down the application server, so essentially consume all the computing resources or the database resources or anything on the application side and bring the entire site to a halt. These requests, or these are typically measured in requests per second. Some trends about DDoS. So volume-based attacks are definitely getting bigger, actually bigger and better. We are seeing more and more attacks over 20 gigs. We're also seeing more and more application layer attacks. These are targeting smaller organizations and are going after specific targeted platforms using or leveraging some of their weak points to bring them down. We're also seeing new attack types. These include blanket bombing of an entire subnet, essentially disabling or preventing the website that's being attacked to bounce from IP to IP to try and protect themselves. And the second trend that we're seeing are amplified DDoS attacks through open DNS type of infrastructure providers or public SNMP infrastructure. There are basically 5 commands or commandments that we feel are required for DDoS mitigation. The first commandment is thou shalt be invisible. And what that means essentially is your users don't need to know and don't care that you're under attack. More so, people don't like to hang around in dangerous places, meaning if they know you're under attack, they may feel that there's something to worry about and they'll abandon your site. And third, people should be allowed to enter your site without any delays, just as they do when you're not under attack, without being sent through any type of holding areas and being presented with splash screens, and definitely without being served any type of outdated cached content. Your content should be good, your site should be up and running as fast and as seamless as when you're not under an attack. The second commandment is all about redemption. Let he who is innocent step forward. And what that means essentially is that all users should be able to exonerate themselves independently. At the very least, they should be able to shout out or complain, say, hey, I'm a human, let me in. This is a false positive or a misclassification of me being an attacker. And second, they should be able to redeem themselves by completing a CAPTCHA, which is essentially a human test, making sure or beyond any doubt that they are in fact human and not a bot part of the attack. The third commandment is to spare no bot, but beware of those holier than thou. And what that means is to block all application layer bot requests. Most websites have very little headroom for error. Typically, an excess of 50 page views per second can actually take the website down or slow it down to become essentially unusable. Transparency also should not come at the expense of any airtight protection, meaning you should make no compromises in the security because you want to remain transparent, meaning you shouldn't leave things open and you should tighten your security as much as possible without fearing. However, one of the most important things is that you must grant what we call here the internet gods, Google, Bing, your other services like Pingdom, etc., to access your site at all times, which means even if you're under attack and you're blocking automated traffic, there is good automated traffic as well that shouldn't be blocked, and on the contrary, you should definitely be able to identify those entities and let them in even while you're under attack. The fourth commandment is absorb all that is cast upon you. You should take cover because network attacks are, as I said earlier, are getting bigger. You must be able to take a 20 gig plus or more than a 20 gig attack and still remain standing. And furthermore, you should have what we call isolation capabilities to prevent others that are sharing your resources or on your servers or on your network or sharing your bandwidth not to suffer from the attack because you or an individual tenant on your infrastructure is under attack. The fifth and last commandment talks about how divine it is to be able to detect DDoS. We feel that automatic and accurate DDoS detection is just as important and as effective, or just as important as effective mitigation. You shouldn't be in DDoS mode all the time and unnecessarily, and essentially you're not able to watch your servers and your sites 24/7, 365. What that means is that you really need real-time protection activation. Otherwise, by the time you identify that you're under attack, by the time you've noticed it, by the time you've huddled together and seen what's going on, your site's going to be down, your visitors are going to be complaining. Next, I'm going to talk about Incapsula's DDoS mitigation service and how we essentially address those commandments. Very briefly about Incapsula. Incapsula as a service is essentially a mega proxy in the cloud, or more accurately, a reverse proxy. We filter all your website traffic. It's routed through our network by making a simple DNS change. All the bad traffic is filtered out. You can see the bots, the hackers, the scrapers, the spammers, and in DDoS, in the DDoS case, the DDoS bots, all get filtered out, and only your legitimate traffic passes through. This is done through a worldwide network of data centers, or what we call proxies. And in addition to these proxies, as you can see in this architecture, there's a central brain that's orchestrating everything. All these proxies are sending information back to the central brain. It's coordinating the blacklist. It's coordinating the knowledge that's been accumulated during attacks to make the system smarter. It's leveraging the crowd and what we're seeing on thousands and thousands of sites to improve the security technology. Some of the specs about Incapsula's DDoS solution. So we can handle over 250 gigabits per second of DDoS traffic. Our network is constantly growing and we're building out more capacity. We cover both the network attacks, the layer 3 and 4 attacks, and the application level layer, or the layer 7 DDoS attacks. We provide granular traffic filtering. Human visitors pass through, the DDoS bots are stopped and kept out. And we also provide what we call zero delay filtering. The DDoS bots are filtered before they reach your website. So they're not lurking around your website, detected during the process of utilizing your website. They are blocked before they even reach there. And the third technology is what we call our progressive client interrogation technology. And this is very important because what we actually do here is we have a progressive challenge mechanism that tries to identify if we are dealing with a human, a bot, a good bot, a bad bot, a DDoS bot, constantly elevating the level of challenge until we are sure of the classification, whether it's a legitimate human and we can let them through, or whether it's a DDoS bot and we have to block them. What this really does is it strikes the right balance between allowing the good users in uninterrupted without changing the user experience, and on the other hand, effective blocking of those malicious entities that are trying to bring the website down. We provide automated detection and activation, so your sites on Encapsula all the time, DDoS mode or DDoS rules kick in automatically based on thresholds and automatic detection. And that's all backed up by dedicated 24/7 support staff that will work with you, with your customers to mitigate the attacks on an ongoing basis. This is an illustration essentially of how the solution works. We receive a uniform stream of traffic, and our technology is able to essentially split out the traffic and identify, as you can see here, the humans, the search engines, let them through, the DDoS bots, the spammers, and other type of malicious entities, and keep them away from your site. Encapsula is really the first service that was built for any sized websites. It can be deployed very, very simply, literally in 5 minutes. And as I said earlier, it's done by making a simple DNS change. You don't have to install any software or hardware, and you don't have to make any changes to your application. It's self-manageable in the sense that site owners, service providers can use the system without any security knowledge. They don't have to be performance optimization experts. And the solution's affordable. There's no upfront hardware costs. There's no setup and any type of integration costs. It's also ideal for hosting and other service providers. It enables you essentially to extend enterprise-grade security to your entire customer base, whether you have shared customers, dedicated cloud, managed hosting, and high-end customers, even in colo infrastructure configurations. It can all be centrally provisioned and managed from a single place through a dedicated interface to manage the service For those service providers that want to manage it for their customers, they can take full control on the setup configuration and do everything for them. And we also provide APIs to allow for integrating of the provisioning into your existing shopping carts, your checkout areas, and your infrastructure. We offer various reseller and affiliate models, either through a simple web integration, through an API, and through a reseller portal. So Encapsula is actually a little more than just DDoS. Encapsula also provides ongoing website security. We offer a full-blown enterprise-grade web application firewall. We protect against things like advanced SQL injections, cross-site scripting, and other threats. We have specific stack rules in place for the common website development platforms such as WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, and others, so that any vulnerability that's discovered on those platforms is patched in real time or semi-real time by our security team, and those patches are essentially rolled out to the entire network simultaneously, preventing anyone from exploiting those vulnerabilities and attacking the sites that are on the service. We would also address all the other website hazards, such as eliminating automated and undesired traffic to your site, the spam bots, the content scrapers, hot linkers, etc. We're also a PCI certified solution, meaning anyone that's processing credit cards or taking credit cards on their website can use Encapsula without being in violation of their PCI regulation. And furthermore, we can actually help you with your PCI requirements, as having a web application firewall is part of the regulation itself. Furthermore, Encapsula also provides site acceleration. We offer a full-blown CDN. As I said, the traffic's routed through our global network of data centers. Our data centers are throughout North America, EMEA, and Asia. Our caching technology provides advanced caching algorithms that ensure that your pages are fresh and will significantly reduce the server load times and make your sites run much faster. We provide content optimization, such as compression and minification, so that your content is optimized. So not only are we bringing your content closer to your users through the CDN, but we're actually reducing its footprint through the optimization technology. We also employ other optimizations on the networking level, like smart handling of session connections to accelerate the traffic delivery. So that's it for Encapsula. I think at this time, Liam, I would be happy to take any questions that anyone has.
Okay, so excuse me. So I'd like to remind the audience at this point that they can submit their questions through the webinar question function. While we start that process, I'll start throwing some questions at you that I've got marked down here, and hopefully we can get some answers around that from you. So I guess let's start out just by talking about Encapsula's products, or how do you price it? And maybe you could talk about, if you're selling it direct or versus whether you're selling it through an affiliate or through a service provider that's doing your full reseller model.
Absolutely. So in terms of go-to-market, we sell directly online, so people can go to www.encapsula.com, sign up online for the service. And we also work through, as I said earlier, different types of service providers. We work through hosting providers who offer Encapsula to their customers. Starting off with our free package, we have a free plan that includes great security acceleration, and paid plans which include additional features, functions, and capabilities. We have managed service providers that actually leverage what we call our reseller portal. They have a full-blown portal in which they can add new customers, provision their accounts, manage their accounts for them, do a lot of the things that Encapsula can do or Encapsula support staff can do behind the scenes, and they can essentially offer Encapsula as a full-blown managed service. In terms of pricing, we have essentially 4 different plans. We have, as I said, a free plan. We have what we call the personal plan, a business plan, and our enterprise plans. As their names indicate, they're basically for different strokes for different folks. Pricing is based on features and functions, so the different packages are priced differently per site. And our enterprise plans, which include all the security, acceleration, DDoS technology that I spoke about, are all priced based on the number of sites you have, the SLA or the traffic SLA that you require, and the DDoS SLA that you require as well.
Okay. We've got a question about, well, it asks specifically about VPS hosting, but let me expand on that a little bit and say, are there particular forms of hosting that are well suited to working with Incapsula? Is there a low limit? Is there sort of low end that's a site that's too small, or a customer that's too small to use a service like this, or and also let's address specifically, VPS hosting services.
So that's a good question, and Encapsula really can fit any sized website. We have, as I said, thousands and thousands of customers. Some of them are on our free plan, pretty small sites, and we have large sites that are pushing hundreds of megabits per second of traffic through our service. We can protect sites that are on a shared hosting environment. We can, because everything's done at the DNS level, there's really no tight link to the infrastructure that you're on. Specifically regarding VPS, it's great because some of the alternatives to what we provide are actually different types of appliances. And in a virtual environment, there's really no room for appliances, and you need to use some type of cloud service or virtual service. And Incapsula, from that perspective, offers a really good fit for the VPS environments. It's also very important because VPS environments are priced by the resources that they consume. So by the fact that Encapsula reduces your server utilization, your bandwidth requirements, we're actually going to be saving you money on the back end, in addition to the great added value that we provide you as a service.
Okay, great. Another question we had from the attendees was, the person doesn't specify, but I would imagine this might have to do with European regulatory concerns. But are you able to deliver the DDoS mitigation service without routing the traffic through your U.S. data centers?
Yes, we are, and that's actually a question we get pretty often, most commonly from our European customers. What we are able to do is essentially confine any customer to a subset of our network. So, for example, if a European customer only wants their traffic to stay within the EU, we can essentially very simply confine their service to only be provided from the data centers of ours that are in the European community.
Cool. This next question it's a big question, and I'm sure you could spend a lot of time answering it. But I guess let's stick to the biggest ones. But somebody's basically asking about the sort of motivators behind DDoS attacks and what attackers are seeking to gain if they're going after your customers as a hosting provider.
Well, I think, as you said, that's probably a question we could talk about for the rest of the day. But what we do see very often are the ransom notes that our customers receive. It's kind of we actually have a little billboard in which we print those out and put them on in our offices, because some of them are actually very original. And we see many instances, or a common pattern essentially, in which the attackers issue what we call a warning shot. So they'll hit your servers, they'll hit your website very briefly for a couple of minutes with a pretty big attack to kind of shake things up, and very soon after you'll get a ransom note asking for you to make some type of money transfer to a certain Dropbox essentially, and if you don't do that, they promise to give you some of that, that taste that you got just a couple of minutes ago within 24 or 48 hours. That's essentially when we get contacted by customers, whether they are existing customers or prospects looking to seek protection. That's a very, very common modus operandi today. Essentially, the whole ransom concept of extorting, funds, and it's, probably the modern form of protection that we, all knew about many years ago. That's obviously in addition to the hacktivists, which we read about on the news. But as I said earlier, the most common phenomena that we see are using DDoS as a method to take out the competition, a method to extort funds, and to get some type of message across.
Right. So my assumption would have been that profit motivation and political motivation are or activism are the sort of two major motivators.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I would love it if you could talk a little bit about, from a hosting provider partner perspective, what do you see as an effective model for a service provider to deliver DDoS protection service? And let's say we're talking about in partnership with Encapsula. I mean, is it put it out there and see what sticks, or is it building it into a sort of premium offering that you charge more for, but that you don't necessarily specifically have a price for the DDoS protection? Is there like an a la carte kind of offering that providers offer? Can you just sort of give us an idea of what works as a business model?
Absolutely. So again, depending on what type of hosting the partner provides, but we would recommend even our shared hosting partners to start off with a free plan. Offer the free plan to as many customers as you have. The benefit there is that in addition to the DDoS protection that you're getting, you're reducing the load on your servers. You're able to essentially offer your customers a free CDN, great website security built into a hosting platform. You'll also see that from that point on, customers that get engaged will upgrade to either the personal business, and the bigger customers will actually look for the enterprise capabilities because they have the feature set that they need as a larger organization. These are organizations that have, anywhere from, 1 or 2 servers to sometimes a couple of cages, and there's a very good fit for the entire range. We also offer various, as I said, integration models. We have a cPanel plugin, which really makes the onboarding and integration of cPanel hosting providers very, very simple. It becomes a click of a button to get onto Encapsula. It's an on and off switch, which the end users or the customers can toggle, and by doing that, they're getting onto Encapsula in a single click. And those that want more can have single sign-on into our application or dashboard where they can configure their settings, look at all their statistics, and purchase the additional plans. The plans can be purchased directly from us in an affiliate model, or as I mentioned earlier, through a reseller model in which the hosting provider can actually bundle this into a package of theirs or sell it independently. Collect the money from their customers as part of their plan, and then deal with Encapsula on the back end.
Okay, so I think it would be helpful if you could talk about, you started out and you talked about the sort of the DDoS mitigation functions and the way that works a little bit. But then you sort of started talking about how there's other website security features of it, and then the sort of CDN and traffic optimization aspects. Are those separate products? Are they things that you can bundle with Encapsula, or is Encapsula sort of one product that performs all those functions?
So Encapsula is essentially one service that performs all these functions. With different flavors. So there's always the CDN and the security aspects that are bundled together. And as you change your plan, you're getting more features and more functions, more security capabilities, which include the DDoS, the web application firewall, finer granularity capabilities. So it's, as you mentioned, it's a single service that encompasses all these capabilities, but you can get them in different flavors with different levels of complexity and feature richness, depending on the plan that you subscribe to.
Okay, so let's maybe you could compare Encapsula to some other sort of solutions in the DDoS space. Can you compare Encapsula, let's say, to, and it seems like it's a pretty similar product, but if there's a CDN product that offers some mitigation of DDoS attacks by virtue of its CDN services, can you talk about Encapsula in comparison to that?
Absolutely, that's really a great question, because by being a CDN or being a reverse proxy, essentially by definition you're providing some level of DDoS protection. You're providing essentially anything that's below layer 7. Just by being out there in front of your customers, you're deflecting anything that's not layer 7. So all those protocol attacks that I spoke about, all the volumetric attacks that I spoke about, you're providing a solution to that. What you're not doing by the virtue of you being a CDN, and this is where things really get tricky, and this is where we also do an exceptional job, is with the layer 7 attacks. And as I said, we're seeing more and more of those. The level of, or the volume of attacks that are, or of traffic that's required to take down a website through a layer 7 attack are significantly lower, which means that with smaller botnets you can actually take down much larger sites. And that's where CDNs or other CDN-like security services perform, in my perspective, not as good as we do, basically because of our classification technology, our client classification technology that enables us to identify what traffic is legitimate HTTP traffic, but is essentially a malicious bot leveraging that traffic, the HTTP protocol in a very innocent way, or innocent-looking way, and that's where you need that technology that can essentially differentiate right from wrong.
Okay. So somebody, one of the attendees has asked, I guess the question, they submitted a link to your pricing comparison page from your website, and sort of asking if the real, I'm making air quotes with my fingers while I say this, but the real DDoS protection is provided via the enterprise plan, or, I mean, I guess that's the question. Are there limitations on the types of protection that are offered on the smaller plans?
Yes, so our plans that are not our enterprise plans provide some level of DDoS protection, in the sense that we provide the layer 3 and layer 4 protection up to a certain limit, and that's essentially by being there in front of our customers. And as I said, the layer 3 and layer 4 attacks are mitigated by definition because we are able to absorb so much traffic. We do provide certain limits, so if a certain site's under a significant attack, we will approach them, explain to them that they are not eligible to sustain that level of traffic, and talk to them about upgrading their plan to a full-blown enterprise plan, which includes significantly higher thresholds of DDoS attacks that will mitigate for them, includes the layer 7 protection as well, that client classification technology, and a close relationship essentially, or a hands-on fine-tuning session with our security team that will monitor their sites for them, make sure that the level of blocking is where it needs to be. We're not over-blocking, we're not under-blocking, and those are the really tricky areas of the layer 7 DDoS, in which, as I mentioned earlier, you don't just want to put some type of a splash screen or a delay screen in front of every single customer of yours, because most people will abandon your site if they are delayed for 3 or 4 seconds. And what we want to achieve through the fine-tuning and the automatic controls that we have is striking that right balance between blocking the bots but not presenting or delaying any of the traffic of the legitimate users.
Okay, so the level, it sounds like the level of protection that a client needs is dependent on the client's, specific needs.
Correct.
Okay, so let's talk about, Can you compare what Encapsula does to a DDoS solution that's based on dedicated proxy servers?
So definitely, a dedicated proxy server essentially is, a provider will provide you with a server which proxies your traffic, a single IP address which you'll route your traffic through. The difference here is that what we provide is essentially an entire network, which means that there's resilience in the service itself, meaning if anything happens to any single data center, there's failovers among data centers. We are also mitigating traffic significantly away from or further away from the end user's servers, and we're through the CDN also keeping the site routing and performing very, very fast even during an attack. I'll give you an example. If your server is hosted in Dallas and the proxy server that you are allocated is in Chicago, every single request to your website is going to go first to Chicago, then to Dallas, back to Chicago, and then back to the end user. And that will significantly increase the latency of your website, as opposed to if it was optimized and a lot of the content was actually pushed closer to your end users. Even under attack, the website would be performing very, very, very well.
Okay, and so how does Incapsula handle SSL traffic?
So that's also a good question, and whoever asked that question actually pretty much understands the way we work. What we need to do in order to proxy SSL traffic is we have to be able to terminate the SSL traffic on in our data centers, and we have to be able to inspect that traffic, make sure that it's not attack traffic, and then re-encrypt and send it on to the origin server. In order to do that, we have to have essentially a valid SSL certificate for that domain that we are proxying on behalf. We have an integrated solution with some of the CAs, the certificate authorities, in a very, very simple way. When a customer onboards their site to Incapsula, within a couple of minutes, by performing what's known as the domain validation process, they essentially issue us with a certificate in a very seamless and automatic way that gets uploaded to all of our data centers, and within the minutes we're able to essentially accept SSL traffic for that website, decrypt it, inspect it, and then pass it on to the origin server.
Okay, and can you protect against mail server DDoS attacks?
No, that's one thing we don't do, in the sense that we only do HTTP or HTTPS traffic. Email traffic is a complete different protocol and shouldn't be routed through Encapsula.
Okay, so this is a question that has sort of occurred to me now. It seems to me that an outage because of a DDoS attack that costs you money, whether it's from online sales or some other aspect of your business, or receiving a ransom note, those things would seem to make the case for spending money on DDoS protection. But if you're a service provider and you have smaller customers, as you said, and I know you said there's a free model, which probably will be part of the answer to this question, but I'm wondering if you have any advice for sort of making the case for DDoS protection. It seems like kind of like selling fire extinguishers, in the sense that it would be much easier to sell them to people after they had already had a need for them.
So that's absolutely correct, and we do get many customers coming to us while they're under attack, looking for a solution. On the other hand, you see those that are forward-thinking and understand that as soon as their website becomes a viable source of revenue, it also becomes a target. And that's why there are chief security officers, CISOs, that it's part of their job to mitigate risk. And those are the ones that are more proactive. And what you also see are service providers that essentially realize that because they rely on the economies of scale, because they rely on the shared environments, as soon as a single customer of theirs gets hit it essentially shakes their entire infrastructures. And those service providers are coming to us looking for a way to onboard as many customers as they can to Incapsula in order to prevent any of that, boat rocking for their entire ship. And even if they have some customers that don't use Incapsula, they have an agreement with us, or they have a framework to work with us in the sense that when someone does get hit, they can onboard them very quickly and essentially prevent any collateral damage.
Okay, that makes sense. Sorry, that is all the questions that I have planned out, and all the ones that we have received from the audience. Do you? I don't know if there's anything else that you want to touch on that that we have not yet covered.
No, Liam, I actually think that we covered pretty much everything I had to say, and some of the questions were really good as well. If anyone wants to contact us directly, my email information is below, and obviously you can all reach us at www.incapsula.com.
Okay, well, I think, there's certainly no damage to be done by wrapping up a little bit early, but, I'd like to thank everyone for attending, and thank you very much to those of you who submitted questions. We got some great questions in. Of course, I would like to thank Mark for taking us through a subject that I think is very interesting for service providers in the sense that it is, both a threat and an opportunity.